Hello everyone, this week we're looking at Lesson 5 in Futato's grammar. This is the vocabulary for this lesson, and so we're going to go through here and just discuss both the meaning and maybe some memory aids for hanging on to what these words are. So we start with Kohen. Kohen means priest. The memory aid that I have for this is the priests go into the sanctuary. I know it's not great, but hopefully Kohen, the priests, go into the sanctuary. Obviously, you don't want to memorize Kohen as go in, so that's one reason why this is not a great mnemonic, but hopefully you can come up with one even better. Just add it in here for everybody else to see, and that will hopefully make it easier to remember. Kohen means priest. Next, we have the verb halach. Remember, all of the verbs that you're given in Futato are going to be in a very particular form. This is the basic dictionary form of these verbs. This is the form that you would look them up in if you wanted to find them in a dictionary, or what we call a lexicon. And we will learn more about this form in the next couple lessons, but this is referred to as the cal active, or cal is active. Is referred to as the cal perfect. Perfect usually refers to, in English, we often use the simple past tense to translate the cal perfect, because perfect refers to action that is portrayed as completed. And so usually in English, if we want to describe action that is completed, we use the past tense for that. This also happens to be in the third person masculine singular form. We'll see that these verbs have different forms depending on whether they are first, second, or third person, and depending often on whether they are masculine or feminine. So this is the cal perfect 3ms, third masculine singular form, of the root he lamed kaf. And this word, this root in this form, means he went or he walked. Now, I really don't have a great mnemonic for halach, other than to say if you were to transliterate this, that is, if you were to write this word out with English letters, it would be H-A-L-A-K. And when I look at it, I just see if you replace the H with the W, it almost spells walk. It'd be walach. But, the L, the A-L-K, I kind of see walk there. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but hopefully you can come up with a better memory aid for that. This next one here, again, it's a verb. And keep in mind, the verb forms that you're going to be given, the dictionary forms of these verbs, are always going to have 3 letters. So if you receive a word like, here we have anochi, or a word like at, or a word like anachnu, or maybe something like Elohim or Malkut. All of these have more or less than 3 letters, so you know that those are not verbs. That doesn't mean that a verb always has only 3 letters. I'm just saying when you're given the dictionary form, you'll be given 3 letters. Okay, so if you see a word that has more than that or less than that, El, Elohim, you can assume that it's not a verb. All right, so looking at lakach. Lakach means he took or he seized. And my mnemonic is lakach, lakach your car so someone doesn't take it. Next one, we have Natan. Natan can mean a lot of different things. It has a very broad range of meanings. Generally, it means something like he gave, or he put down, or he set, or he presented. It's this idea of giving. So Natan would mean he gave, he put, he presented. My mnemonic for this, or my memory aid, is I gave, or I presented my notes on, Natan, notes on the topic. I presented my notes on the topic, Natan. Again, a little bit of a stretch, but I'm trying to give you something to work with. Next one, we've got Shema. Shema, he heard, he listened to, or he obeyed. In Deuteronomy 6:4, that's referred to as the Shema. And the Shema is called the Shema because Shema is the first word. Now, this is Shema. You've got a full kametz here. In Deuteronomy 6:4, this is a vocal shava, so it's Shema rather than Shama. But Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad, means listen or hear, O Israel. The Lord is your God, the Lord is one. So the Shema begins, hear, O Israel, or listen, O Israel. That is in the imperative form in Deuteronomy 6:4. Here we have the Cal perfect form, so this is more just a statement of fact. He listened, or he heard. It can also mean he obeyed. Next we have Adam. Adam means a human, or it can be a collective noun. It can refer to mankind or humankind as a whole. So the mnemonic for this is pretty easy. Adam was the first human. So Adam means human, or it can mean mankind. Next we have Ish. And Ish is another word that can refer to man or human. It usually refers to it's going to refer to a male, not just any human, but particularly a male. But it's also the word that gets used for husband. There's not a separate word in Hebrew for husband. My husband, or her husband, would be her man. So Ish, if I were to say Ishi, that would be my man or my husband. Same happens for Isha, which is woman. And you can see the kametz hey here. As we're learning in the next couple lessons, kametz hey often is a sign of the feminine singular. Here it separates Ish from Isha. You'll also note that Isha loses that yod. But very similar, they are built off of the same. Here we are. They are built off the same word. In fact, in Genesis 2, when Adam says she will be called woman because she was taken from man, it's this Isha because she was taken from Ish. My silly mnemonic for Ish is sheesh, man. Don't know if that'll help you, but it helped me. Isha, again, the kametz hey ending indicates feminine singular. When you see this, just see a feminine singular version of Ish. So instead of man, it means woman. Instead of husband, it would mean wife. Next, we have bite. Bite. This particular spelling here, you see the little arrow on top of the bait. Usually in Hebrew, the final syllable of a word is the syllable that's accented. So if you have more than one syllable in a word and you don't see an accent mark, which is what this little arrow is, if you don't see an accent mark, then you can assume that the final syllable, here we have Adam, the final syllable is accented. But when a syllable other than the final syllable is accented, we mark that syllable with this little arrow here. Okay, and so this arrow on top of a letter with a patach, followed by a yod and a hirik, this is, we sometimes refer to this as a Hebrew diphthong. A diphthong is basically two vowel sounds together that form one syllable. So we don't want to pronounce this as bayit, keeping two syllables, bayit. We want to pronounce this as bayit, bayit, one syllable. And what a diphthong usually does is it glides from one vowel sound to another vowel sound. So common diphthongs in English are I, you, a, You can hear a glide from one vowel sound to another there. So, bait means house. It often gets used for temple when it's the bite of a particular god. So, bait Adonai would be the house of God, and in that case it refers to a temple. But the word itself means house. So, my mnemonic is the gambler was baited into betting the house. And this reminds me that both bait, the what we call the absolute form, this is a form when it's not grammatically, well, I shouldn't say grammatically, but when it's not built onto another word, which bait frequently is built onto another word. We'll talk about the construct form a little bit later. But when it is built on another word, it switches from bite, to bait. So I say the gambler was baited. I gotta connect by it with baited. This would not be pronounced baited, but the construct form would. So he was baited into betting the house. And like I say over here, when this word is built onto another word, which is referred to as the construct form, the patach yod hirik, this Hebrew diphthong, this is going to convert into a Sarah yod. All right, so the bait becomes bait. All right, the gambler was baited into betting the house. Final one, we have derech, and I don't know if we've talked about this before, but when you have a final cough at the end of a word and that cough does not have its own vowel, you put a small silent shava underneath of it. It's actually inside of it, I guess you would say, because it's higher than the vowel would usually be. But this marks the end of the syllable, and this only happens with the final cough. Other final letters don't get this silent shava. The only time silent shava shows up at the very end of a word, well, there's a couple times, but the most common time is when you have a final cough. We'll actually learn about one other time that happens in a couple lessons when we look at some verbs. So, derech means a way, a path, a road. It can even refer to a journey, but my mnemonic here is the path will direct you. And I try to make it sound like the Hebrew word a little bit, but the path will direct you. Derech, direct. So the path will direct you. Derech means path, or road, or way. That's the vocabulary for this week. Like I said, if you have better memory aids, fill them in over here. Let's see what you've got. Let's see if we can help each other remember these a little bit better, because it's hard to master all of these new words, and a lot of times these words sound very similar, so you'll get a little bit frustrated trying to distinguish your memory aids. But do the best you can, and if you come up with a good one, share it with us.